The whole Confederacy has iron workers like Senecas, Cayugas, Oneidas, Onondagas. Everybody in our Confederacy is a worker and a hard worker. Our people have a lot of pride in work, and that's why they had to become especially good at what they do in that trade. And I met one man in my lifetime that told us a story about when he was working on the Empire State Building. And he told us that he drove the last rivet in the Empire State Building, and he was from the community of Kahnawake near Montreal. In 1965, I joined a union. And ever since that time, I was an iron worker for 28 years. We traveled extensively, and I worked probably almost every city in New York State, also Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire, Grand Rapids, Michigan, New York City, leaving home on a Sunday and usually coming home the following Friday.
They'd go out in about March. As soon as the jobs break and they'd open back up, they're back out there. Sometimes I remember, I think he worked several winters right through.
On a typical day, the men would arrive on a job site. You have a group called the Raising Gang, and their job is to put up the structure of steel. There will be two people on the ground hooking onto the pieces. There will be two men who are called connectors, who are bringing the pieces together. And then you have the foreman on the ground with the men, and he's telling them what kind of steel to send up to the men on the top. There's a lot of movements that people have to learn, and how to walk the beams, because sometimes you have narrow beams that may be long ones that you have to walk on, and most of the time they have a tendency to become rubbery and start to shake as you walk on it. And so they always told us not to stop if it starts wobbling, because if you do, the momentum is going to be lost and it could throw you off balance. I used to do mostly bolting up, because that you have a chance to work together with another person nearby closely, and you are able while you're working to just kind of joke around and tell stories or catch up on the latest gossip, from home, and kind of keeps you in touch with the community that way. I guess the reason why we really got involved in the ironwork is because it's a way to, it has all to do with economics and keeping families together and making sure they're fed, These men, each of them, are here on the job to work, to feed their family, just like our ancestors used to go hunting, and before they left, they would pray that everything would turn out for them. And they gave thanks for everything that they derived from nature. And in this case, it's the economic return.
Jake used to tell me they led a very lonely life, being away from their families, and it was a necessity. They had to bring the bread and butter, as we call it, to the home. So they had to sacrifice a lot too, but we did also. We couldn't be dependent on the men. If a screen needs fixing, a latch needs fixing, or something would come apart, you turn to be a jack of all trades. You learn to pick up a hammer and fix whatever needs fixing. And we didn't save all that for the men when they came home weekends. In fact, I know with my friends and I, we try to make it easier for them, where the house would be in good order and the wash is done. We only have to do their clothes when they get back, trying to have ample time with them and the children. And it was hard. You get used to being dependent on nobody but yourself, and then they get laid off in the late fall, and then they're home all winter, and it's just like, oh my goodness, when would they ever go back to work? And it took a few weeks of adjustment. Finally, we know we'd be okay again.
There's been a lot of tragedies, across the St. Lawrence River in Quebec. One time, they were building a bridge, and the whole structure collapsed. 35 men in a fraction of a few seconds lost their lives. In one community, 35 Mohawks. That's a lot of families affected. But still, they kept on going, and it didn't stop them because the Mohawk people are very determined people.
The women, I felt, were always kind of apprehensive because there was accidents where, like in Garnawaga, when the bridge fell and a lot of the men went down with it. And it also happened in Akwesasne where 2 of our young men, family men, died when that happened. But you don't really dwell on it. I know I didn't when Jake worked on it. I tried not to feel scared because I knew that our children would feel it. And so I tried to go about and keep myself busy.
Yeah, I did have a close call up in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and I was doing connecting at the time with another fellow, maybe 300 feet up on the outside of a building. We're putting in a wind bracing, and the beam was being dropped into place, and I was up there on a angle, and when that load gave way, the beam hit me on the shoulder, and I just slid down. And so I looked back on the floor where the signalman was. He was using a walkie-talkie, and he just covered his eyes and looked the other way. He thought I went over, but I held on. My nails must have dug into the iron. But we came off that job that day, and then we went on to another job someplace else. Because once you get a close call like that, it kind of makes you kind of nervous for a little while, and then slowly you get over it. I think humor is the main thing that men focus on to overcome their fear by laughing at themselves. Sometimes when they make little mistakes or something. Maybe they'll fall off a ladder or something and fall down and they don't get hurt. But as soon as the men know that the person didn't get hurt, then they start laughing at the person. They tend to grow a kind of rough attitude, a roughness about them on the outside, but it's like a shell. Inside, they're very soft people, and when you see them next to children, they value young people because they know how close they come to being done with this life every day as they work. Being a steel worker and an iron worker, you have to get over this fear of falling. I'm always proud of the men who are able to do that. And I know there are many things that are dangerous in this life, but to accomplish something that has a lot of fear tied to it and be able to get beyond that, that's where the world opens up. I guess it's the pride that shows up within their being that when you see them in a crowd, you know that they have a lot of strength. And they carry it with them wherever they go.